everyone, it's Darby with rejoiceandcreate.com, and for Christmas 2017, this is the next project that I have. I think it's very sweet. Looks like a little flower you're presenting to someone, but actually it's a little bit of a treat. It has a candy cane and then some wrapped candy. In this case I have kisses in there. A little to and from note. And it just sits there and you can sit it right on the desk. It'll stand right up and it makes a very festive little gift to someone. And I can see it on a coworker's desk or perhaps teacher presents for Christmas. Or even some table favors at a party. So let me show you how I made this. You start with a 6 by 6 inch piece of designer series paper, and this one I use Quilted Christmas. And this time I'm going to use the Be Merry, and this one has cherry cobbler in it. You also need a scrap of Whisper White for the label and for the to and from tag, which I put on there. Now for the poinsettia, it was a little bit of a challenge because the poinsettia punch and the poinsettia framelits are all gone. They've been retired from Stampin' Up. If you have them, certainly go ahead and use them. But I wanted to find something that would work in the current catalog for those people who wanted to order them. And actually the way I made this poinsettia was using the lemon punch. And I used the leaves from the lemon punch, and I'll show you how I cut those out and put them together. So for the leaves, you'll need a scrap of garden green in this case, because I'm using the Be Merry and it has a garden green, but this time I use the Tranquil Tide in this one. You'll also need some ribbon, and I'm using the garden green stitched ribbon. This one I use the Tranquil Tide finely woven ribbon. And for wrapping around the, shall I call it a vase, is about 12 inches would make it, because I tied a knot. A little bit longer if you want to tie a bow. And for wrapping around the package of candy, I have one about maybe 6 to 8 inches long. I also used one of the 2 by 8 inch bags, and I cut it down to 6 inches tall. Now I'm out of the 2 by 8, so I have one that's 2 1/4 by 8. I actually used one of the pretzel bags from Wilton and cut it down, but it also works as well. For my first one, I used the stamp set Labels to Love, and I used the Ho 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 with the smallest oval and the smallest scallop layering oval. And I used the to and the from, and I cut that one out with one of the labels from the bunch of banners. I actually used that one for it, and I did it vertical as well and then punched a hole in it. For the one I'm doing today, I'll use the Seasonal Chum stamp set, and I'll use the Merry Christmas as well as the to and the from. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start by scoring our paper for the vase, and how I did that was I lined up a diagonal on the 3/4 inch line. So you can make sure you're on the 3/4 inch line on the top and on the bottom. And I went ahead and scored. And then I just turned it to the next diagonal, made sure I lined that one up at the 3/4 inch line on the top and the bottom, and scored. And then I did that all the way around. So make sure your diagonals points are on the 3/4 inch line, and turn one more time. And that's our scoring. So let me go ahead and fold and burnish those so you can see, hopefully, the lines. Alright, so if you can see those, we have, we're scored across the diagonals this time. And we have like a V on the side. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to cut from the center of the side straight to that where those score lines meet. It doesn't have to be exact, we're just going to create our tabs. But don't go past where the score lines meet. Okay, and then go to the right and cut one of those triangles off right at the score line. Okay, now turn it and do the same thing with the next side. Cut to where those score lines intersect, and then cut one of those triangles off at the score line. All right, and repeat. Alright, because these will be our tabs, we don't need to have that full triangle, so just cut it off about a ½ inch from this score line. And we can do that all the way around. Alright, now because I want this to kind of curl back before I glue it together, I'm just going to take my bone folder and just curl out those points. Alright, so now what we'll do is we'll put some fast fuse on the score line or tear and tape, or you can also use Tombow glue, whatever you wish to use. Just try to get it close to the score line because that holds it together better. Okay. And then just line up the cut end with the folded score line. Okay, and that's our vase. Now, because we have an edge on each side, just find the one which you think looks the best. And I kind of like that side. And then we're going to take our longer piece of ribbon and we'll just tie it right around. And I'm tying in a knot. If you want to tie it in a bow, you're more than welcome to. Just use a little bit longer piece of ribbon. Got some decorative ends on your ribbons. Alright, so we've got that part done. To save a little bit of time, I went ahead and stamped my Merry Christmas on the Whisper White. And I'm going to use the smallest scalloped layering circle out of Garden Green for a little bit of a backdrop. And I'll be right back with that. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and layer that on. I'm going to take one of the Regal's enamel shapes and I'm going to put a star on the bottom of Merry Christmas. And then I use a glue dot just to stick it below my ribbon. Okay, so I have my kisses and I have my candy cane. Let me snug that down there. I'll leave that for a second. To save a little time, I stamped my to and from in cherry cobbler. I cut it out with the smallest of the lots of labels framelits dies and went ahead and sent a loop of linen thread through and pulled it around. And I'm going to just put one of the strands up there because I'm going to tie the ribbon around there so it'll be tied in. Alright, and here's my shorter section of Garden Green ribbon. And I'm just going to go ahead and tie a knot. Alright, and then what I'll do is go ahead and just tie the to in the from. Okay. So our to and from is on there. And let me just go ahead and get that candy cane all the way down and the ribbon. And the last piece is for us to make our little poinsettia. So let me show you how I cut that out. I used 2 of the leaves that have the stem on it out of Tranquil Tide. So let me go ahead and cut 2 out of Garden Green. I also used out of Real Red for this one 2 sets of 6. So here I have a piece of cherry cobbler and it's 2.5 inches wide. And what I did is I just cut 2 at a time because I'll use 6 of the ones with a stem for the underneath of it, and then on the top I put 6 of the ones that don't have the stem. And what I did is I just moved it over and punched it. And then I just moved it over again and punched it. And I just kept walking it across until I had 6 sets of leaves. The last thing I used for the poinsettia was the center part. And I found the Blossom Builder punch had one that looked like a nice center to a poinsettia. But look around and see what you have. That would work. Alright, so to put this one together, I actually used my silicone sheet. Let me dust off some glitter. And let me put those over there. And I used a circle base that was a 3/4 inch circle to build my flower on. Okay, so I put some multi-purpose glue on to start building my base. And what I did with these is I just layered the stems opposite each other. And I did 2 opposite. And then I layered 2 of them in between. And I didn't put them all the same way. Sometimes I flipped them over so they would curl different ways. But I went ahead and just kept layering them. A little bit more glue. Okay, so when I put the top ones on, what I did is there's a point that's not quite so pronounced and a point that's more pronounced. And what I did with the point, I actually curled the one that was not quite so pronounced up, because that's going to be the outside, and I used that more pronounced point to help me glue it on there. And I glued them in between the others. And then I just went ahead and glued down my center portion of it. And I went ahead and put some glue on the back of this one just so I knew it would stick a little bit. And just centered it on there. Alright, the last thing I did was just glue the leaves onto the back of the poinsettia. In a way that looked pleasing. And I think I like one over here. And maybe one over here. And let's let that dry for a moment. And then the last thing I'm going to do is to stick on my poinsettia, and I'll go ahead and do that with a few glue dots. And I'd use 3 or 4 glue dots just so you know it's going to stick, because we're going to stick it to the cellophane. So I'll just stick it on like that. And there you go. So I hope you enjoyed our project today. It's a peppermint poinsettia treat box. And I hope you give it a try. If you need more information, please visit rejoiceandcreate.com. And to see the videos as they're posted, please subscribe to my channel. And as always, until we meet again, I hope your days are blessed. Bye!